So this would be the finishing touches on the sunflower here. So I did mine a little bit differently than Georgia O'Keeffe. Of course, we're trying to imitate her style, which she has an amazing painterly style. She typically abstracts her flowers, but in this case, she actually made more of a realistic looking sunflower. On mine, I added a little bit of orange onto the petals. On her example, notice that hers just have, it looks like kind of just yellow-orange petals, but they've all been kind of combined. So, of course, mine's a little bit different. On here, on the leaves, in order to make it darker in certain areas, I used obviously a darker green, but I added a little bit of purple to darken some of these areas. And I'm noticing I might have darkened the reverse areas. There's still some areas here that I can go in and darken. So if you're trying to darken the green, and remember we are using oil pastels for this. Some of you might elect to use color pencils, but it's going to take you a lot longer. But if you decide to do that, then that's fine too. As I mentioned, when I used watercolor, it got really watery on me, really blurry. So that's why I decided to go with the oil pastel. So just wanted to show you, like, for example, on these darker areas here, you can use darker greens. I would stay away from using black because the minute you use black, it gets way dark. And then that becomes your focal point. And definitely the focal point should be the sunflower itself, not the shading. So, try a color that's slightly darker. Don't be so extreme that you go directly to black to do your shading. So I'm going to try some purple here because it still appears to need a little bit of contrast. And actually, you know what? I did the shading here in reverse. It looks like she has, underneath the leaf is where it's darker, which makes sense. So, but sometimes it looks, excuse me. If we were in the classroom, thank you. Everybody would be like, run. So if it looks a little bit different, no worries. That just adds to your originality, right? I'm just trying to show you, don't go directly to black to add shading. Try the darker shade of the color, or typically purple works pretty well. All right, so the last step that I want to show you is just the watercoloring part. I'm assuming you guys have all watercolored before, but I shouldn't really assume that since this is an Art 1 class. So I just wanted to show you very quickly that these are pretty economical watercolors here, Crayola. I'm assuming you can find these at any, Walmart or Target, that kind of thing, but they're actually in back order. I'm waiting for some to arrive actually for the classroom as well. But if you already have yours, then you probably have already started to experiment with them. And you don't have to get the ones that have 16 colors. You can get the ones that just have, 8 colors if you prefer. As you can tell, I'm a little messy, so I should have cleaned this off after I used it, but I didn't because I'm using it just for me, myself, and I. So if we were in the classroom, then obviously we were sharing this, and obviously I would clean it to be respectful and courteous to the next person using it. So what I'm going to do to mix the colors, I'm just going to use this top of the salad container. For those of you who like to eat salad and it comes in already ready for you in a container. So I'm just going to recycle this thing. So in art, try to recycle as many things as you possibly can. We don't want to destroy the environment or create unnecessary waste, obviously. All right. So remember to add the watercolor at the end, because you don't want to, because watercolor obviously is based with water. Oil pastel is oily. So it might get a little tricky mixing the two. And also, you don't want to do the background and then add the color and then get it all messy up in the foreground. So, as I mentioned earlier, you always want to start from the inside out. Art is an inside job, just like growing as an individual. So let's see, I got some water here. So also recycled jar. This is what is this? Garlic pasta sauce container. So it's glass, so comes in handy. And then, so to activate the watercolor, you need some water, of course. And then I'm noticing here there's quite a few different shades of blue. Georgia O'Keeffe's background is kind of a darkish blue, and I'm just now noticing that. So it's more along this shade here. If you want to lighten it up, that's okay. Typically what I recommend in an art classroom is that you use a little bit of white tempera to mix with the watercolor, just because it thickens up the paint. Watercolor paper is pretty pricey. We don't typically use it in the classroom, although I do have some extra watercolor paper that was donated by the Visual and Performing Arts office. If any of you would like some, let me know. But that's the reason why I typically add a little bit of tempera paint, just to thicken up the color. Because you might notice that if you're just using regular printer paper, it might get a little wrinkled or wrinkly on you, or blotchy. Okay, so I'm gonna go in with the darker blue. If you like the lighter blue, then that's cool too. That's fine. If you want to lighten it up, you can always add more water, but you don't want to add too much water, because if you add too much water with thin paper, guess what happens? Your paper will rip on you, especially if you have, really thin paper. So what I'm trying to do here is to create like a nice little puddle of blue. So that's how you activate the watercolor. And pretty much, your water over here is going to start turning blue as well. So remember, you guys, I gave you until the end of this month to get your art supplies, your recommended art supplies. There's really no reason why you shouldn't have them, because if you can't get them on your own, then you should have already emailed me the supplies that you need, so that I can leave them in the library for you. But you got to let me know, so I'm not, packing art supply bags for students who are not going to pick them up. Anywho, so I got quite a bit of blue here, and then I'm going to add it in a kind of a swirly fashion. So you never want to go straight like this, because then that's going to show. Since we're trying to represent a sky, then when you look at the sky, there is no straight lines. There's a whole lot of wiggly lines. So let's see. To be honest with you, I don't really like that dark blue. I'd rather go with the lighter blue. But I'm trying to stay true to Georgia O'Keeffe's colors here. So notice I'm just going to kind of wiggle my brush kind of back and forth. This here is a brush that typically comes in the watercolor container. It's a Crayola brush. And notice that it is rounded. Yeah, the paper's starting to wrinkle on me because I'm just using like printer paper. Again, if you have tempera, then I recommend you mix it in with the watercolor to thicken up the color. Also, we can try and experiment. The oil pastels that I have for you, they supposedly mix with water. So I want to try it out here and see if it actually does. So if I take some of this blue, let's see if it actually works. Not all oil pastels mix with water. It just so happens the ones that I have are pretty cool. They do mix with water. That's why it says water soluble oil pastels here. Let's see if it actually works. Oh yes, it does. But it seems like it leaves it a little bit blotchy, as you can tell. Like it's darker where I colored it, and it's obviously very light as further I go from that coloring. So, not the best for coloring. Also notice that if you were using color pencil on the background, oh my goodness, it would take forever to color the background intensely. So that's why I recommend, maybe use color pencils on the sunflower itself, but definitely use paint for the background. Not only is it a lot more relaxing, but it takes a lot less time. And if you have different shades of blue, then that's okay. I think that kind of adds to the effects. But again, I'm very tempted to add some white tempera because as you can tell, my paper is getting all kind of wrinkled and I don't really like that effect. It shows that I'm using not the proper paper for watercolor. Let's see, let me try and use less water. Of course, if you use less water, then the color is going to be a lot more intense. In this case, a lot darker. Also notice that I'm just kind of wiggling my brush to create kind of that sky effect. What time does class end? At 11:15. So we got like 10 more minutes. Okay, folks, if you are getting bored, if you're like, okay, Miss Brajas, I know how to watercolor, thank you very much, then you are totally welcome to start drawing the sunflower. This demo is for us to kind of work together through it. Or, of course, if you've never used the medium, then it's for me to demonstrate how to use it properly. But at the same time, that's the cool thing about working from home is that, or, just working in a space where you can just start your assignment. You don't necessarily have to wait for me to be done with any particular thing. You can move on to your drawing. Okay. So for those of you who are like wondering when this class is done, I will definitely make sure to dismiss you at the proper time. But I do feel that you get the idea. Just taking some blue with a little bit of water to do the sky. And you'll find once you start painting, it's super relaxing. One thing that art will definitely teach you is patience, because obviously you can't get this done in a minute. It requires a little bit of time. All right, you guys. So we got 10 more minutes. Any questions or concerns on the George O'Keeffe sunflower? I'm giving you ample amount of time to get this done. So there's no reason why you shouldn't get it done. From my understanding, first quarter grades are due October 9th. So definitely by then I will have all your grades updated, because your quarter grades actually do count, especially for those of you who are participating in sports and so on and so forth. Okay, so again, I'm not too crazy about this dark blue, so I'm going to go ahead and lighten it up a little bit. So there is some white on the watercolor, but this white I'm pretty sure is just as watery as the blue. So that's why I'm going to take some tempera here and mix it with the white. Or mix it with the blue, is what I was trying to say. And you guys are going to notice how much thicker the paint becomes once you mix it with tempera. Also, it's going to lighten up the blue, which is kind of like the color I like anyways. Since the colors that I've used are pretty bright, I think it would make sense to use kind of a brighter, lighter blue. Tempera paint is pretty cheap. I think you can get it at Hobby Lobby for, well, I'm not sure how much you can get it for because I haven't been to Hobby Lobby in a while. But I have heard friends tell me that they got really cheap paint from Hobby Lobby. There's one on like Blackstone and I want to say Sierra here in Fresno. Okay, guys, so notice, I don't know, I really do like this blue more than this darker blue. What do you guys think? The darker or the lighter? Yeah, definitely the lighter. Something about the darker blue is kind of like just blah to me. It needs a little bit more life. So I'm going to have to go over it a little bit. All right, 5 more minutes. Can you guys hear the train? Probably not because I have my headphones on. Oh. Okay, it looks like the blue is going to take a little while to paint. So, I think you guys get the idea. Blue background. So, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording there. Since we only have 5 more minutes of class here. It's important to note that you keep clean water and a clean brush. Obviously, if you mix the blue with the orange, if you mix complementary colors, you're going to end up with a muted color. So make sure not to mix the orange with the blue. So let me escape this here and end the recording.